Elon Musk reveals secret about the mother of the black millionaire no one dared to tell. New York City gleamed under the night sky like a crown of diamonds, skyscrapers reaching, shining, pulsing with life. The streets buzzed and roared, alive with ambition. But tonight, in the midst of all that rush and glitz, something darker lurked just beneath. Something Michael Johnson couldn't shake. He stood at the edge of the room, towering above the crowd in his tailored suit. The sharp cut mirroring his iron will. But inside, his hands trembled, his chest tightened. Tonight, a choice waited, one that could make him immortal in the world of business, or shatter everything he'd fought for. A decision he couldn't turn away from, even if he wanted to. Across the gleaming marble floor, a woman caught his eye. She radiated a powerful calm, the kind that commands every light in the room to dim beside it. She was African American, and she wore her strength like armor. Her eyes, steady and unswerving, held stories of battles fought in silence. Beside her stood her son, sharp suit, confidence grin, the kind of self-made millionaire whose story got whispered in boardrooms and buzzed on the streets as a real triumph over darkness. Michael's gaze locked on them. Not just curiosity, something deeper. Suddenly, whispers cut through the music. A scandal brewing. Words tossed like knives. The family's past riddled with secrets. A past that could explode, threatening to ruin not only their empire, but everything Michael had painstakingly built. He wasn't immune to scandal himself. That cliff-edge feeling was all too familiar. But digging into their story, that was a risk that gnawed at his gut. He moved closer, questions boiling. The mother's face wasn't just a mask of strength. It was a map of survival. She had fought systemic prejudice, clawed out of the dark abysses society threw her into. But behind the quiet resolve, a wound throbbed, a loss so raw, so heavy, it stained both her and her son's history. Michael's mind raced, his rival, lurking in the shadows, always hunting weaknesses. This enemy was ready to pounce, to tear down this family and anyone who crossed the line. Michael's phone buzzed. A mysterious message about the mother dropped like a bomb. A choice she once made that no one dared to speak of. A choice powerful enough to reshape lives and legacies. It wasn't just about them anymore. What if this secret could change his own future? What if helping them meant risking everything, but not helping meant losing a part of himself? The crowd fevered, lights flashing, music blaring. Yet for Michael, everything slowed. Heart pounding, sweat trickling, breaths shallow. The city's loud roar faded into a tense silence where past and present tangled, and the path forward vanished beneath shadows full of doubts. What would he choose? To fight for his empire, or fight for a story bigger than legacy? The night stretched on, heavy with secrets waiting to explode. And Michael, caught between fear and hope, stood frozen at the crossroads. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Michael stood frozen at the crossroads, heart racing, thoughts swirling in a storm. The crowd around him pulsed like a living thing, laughter and chatter. But all of that drowned beneath the weight of his decision. And then, suddenly, the lights flickered. For just a moment, everything fell into darkness. Gasps echoed through the room. Michael's breath caught, a lump in his throat. He blinked into the void, disoriented. The silence stretched. When the lights returned, they blazed brighter than before. But the cheers had shifted to horrified whispers. Panic unfurled like a wildflower caught in a gust. Across the room, the woman, the mother, was clutching her son. Michael stared, confusion knotting in his gut. What had just happened? He took a step forward, adrenaline sparking through him, and then he saw it. A figure, hidden in the shadows, eyes glinting with malice. Just for a moment, Michael locked eyes with them. A spark of recognition. His heart plummeted. It was his rival, the hunter that had always been one step behind, waiting for this chance. Before he could react, a loud crash erupted from the far end of the room, shattering the moment. Gasps turned to screams. Thick smoke billowed. Swirling like a storm, the crowd surged back, hearts racing, bodies colliding. Michael pushed forward instinctively. He had to reach the mother and her son. They were exposed, vulnerable. But as he fought to get closer, he overheard a shrill cry ripple through the chaos. "Get down!" He dove, hitting the floor just as the lights dimmed again. Fear pulsed in every muscle. Voices clawed at the air. Someone shouted something about danger. The smoke filled his lungs, sharp and acrid. A throbbing headache bloomed. He couldn't see clearly, but his instincts kicked in. He had to find them, had to get them out. Spotting a shadow, he lunged. "Are you okay?" It was her, the mother. But she was trembling, her face ghostly pale. He's gone!" she shouted, desperation shaking her words. Michael's heart fell into a pit. "Who's gone?" But before she could answer, another figure emerged from the smoke. A man, face obscured, dread curling around him like the smoke that swirled. Everything around them buzzed with frantic energy, with fear, but his eyes were fixed on Michael. "You don't know everything, do you?" the man said, voice dripping with contempt. "You think her strength made him? You don't know the truth behind their rise. You're playing a dangerous game." In that moment, the world around Michael froze. The music faded. The chaos receded. All he could hear was his own heartbeat racing. What did the man mean? What truth? The mother clutched her son, now lost in the tumult of the crowd. The weight of her pain, her secrets, suddenly woven into Michael's fate. He could see it in her eyes. There was something more, something buried deep. Then the man turned, eyes gleaming with a wicked smile, and vanished into the smoke. A chill ran down Michael's spine. Nothing felt right. The pieces of the puzzle shifted. Dizzying. What lay beneath the surface of this family's success? He glanced at the mother, her strength now tinged with vulnerability. The stakes had just risen, and truth hung like a dark cloud over this night. "Wait!" he called, but the moment felt fragile, electric, and that question pulsed between them. What was the secret that could turn everything upside down? As the night surged on, Michael stood, rooted to the spot, a cold sweat trickling down his back, facing an unfolding nightmare he couldn't possibly comprehend. What had he gotten himself into? The night stretched on, heavy with secrets waiting to explode, and Michael, caught between fear and hope, stood frozen at the crossroads. Then the music screeched to a halt. The lights flickered and dimmed. A hushed gasp swept through the crowd like a wave. From the back of the room, a figure emerged, tall, draped in shadows, moving like a storm rolling in. It was Marcus, Michael's longtime business rival. The tension thickened. This was a man who had seized victories through cunning and deceit. No one expected him here. He strode past the amazed guests, a confident smirk plastered on his face. As he approached Michael and the mother, he stopped face to face with them. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken words and tension. "Did you really think you could hide things forever?" Marcus sneered, his voice slicing through the silence. "I know your secret too, and it's bigger than you think." Heart pounding, Michael felt the heavy weight of those words. His mind raced back to the whispered rumors, the ones that teased at the periphery of every conversation. What was Marcus talking about? Did he know something about the mother? About her son? This was a revelation he had not prepared for. But before Michael could speak, Marcus continued, pointing straight at the mother. "You think your past is buried? You think you can build a $1 million empire on a lie?" The crowd shifted, eyes darting. Murmurs spread like wildfire. The mother, face pale but resolute, stepped forward. "What do you know?" Her voice was steady, but the quiver beneath it betrayed the facade. Marcus drew in a breath, relishing the moment. "Your son's success isn't just because of your hard work. It's built on your connection to an unspeakable tragedy." Gasps echoed in the room. Michael felt the world tilt beneath him. What could he mean? Your son, he's not just a self-made millionaire. He's tied to a legacy of crime, one that you've kept hidden. Michael's chest tightened, and his throat felt constricted. He glanced at the son, whose confident grin froze. The boy's expression crumpled. Behind the polished exterior, uncertainty lurked like a predator. "No!" The mother's voice rose, fierce and sharp. "That was a different life. I've fought to turn things around." "Have you, though?" Marcus shot back, eyes gleaming. "Or did you just spin your web tighter, keeping that past from him?" The crowd was buzzing now, shockwaves rippling through faces. Friends exchanged confused glances. Business acquaintances whispered furiously. Michael felt a shift in the air, a cold wave crashing over him. Everything he thought he understood about that family was crumbling. Questions sparked in his mind. What did this mean for his plans? For his rivalry with Marcus? Just as uncertainty loomed, the room filled with an unexpected sound. A loud crash. A chandelier heavy and glittering, fell from above. It shattered on the dance floor, glass fragments exploding like stars underfoot. Everything froze. The crowd stepped back, gasping in horror. In that instant of chaos, a terrible clarity dawned upon Michael. He was standing not just in danger of his empire, but on the brink of unmasking truths that could shatter lives forever. The ground felt unstable. Who could he trust? What loyalty remained? The night was a cascade of chaos, secrets swirling violently around him, and bang! Just like that, the narrative flipped upside down. What horror awaited as truths collided? What would he choose to protect? As smoke and dust settled from the fallen chandelier, Michael stood in the midst of a storm, his heart racing, his world destabilized, desperate to find out what was next. The ground felt unstable. Who could he trust? Michael fumbled, heart racing like a runaway train. The shattered chandelier glimmered like a fallen star, pieces reflecting chaos and horror. All around them, breaths hung thick in the air. The crowd wasn't just shocked, they were terrified, eyes wide, mouths agape. And then a piercing scream cut through the room. Dot! It wasn't just any scream. It was a sound Michael recognized, a sound that pierced his heart. Mom! His gaze darted. The son, terror-stricken and wide-eyed, was reaching out. But he was alone, lost in the sea of panic. Michael felt a rush of urgency, pushing past bodies, adrenaline burning brighter than the lights shimmering above. Stop! Marcus's voice boomed, but Michael didn't care. He could see the boy's panic, a mirror to his own fear. Where are you? Michael yelled, pushing through the crowd. Just ahead, the boy stumbled, falling as more people surged into the chaos. And then it struck, an idea as brutal as the glass that crunched beneath his feet. The connection Marcus hinted at. What if it wasn't just rumors? What if the past wasn't just a shadow, but a reality that tied them all together? Mom, please! The boy's voice shattered him. Michael fought forward, panic blooming in his chest. I'm here! Then he caught sight of her. Her face twisted in horror, mouth moving, but no words came out. She was staring, eyes locked onto Marcus. An unraveling thread tugged violently at Michael. Something was off. Why are you not running? She shouted suddenly, her voice raw. You need to... But before she could finish, Marcus stepped closer. His smirk no longer just a confident mask. It twisted into something far darker. This isn't over. Not yet. Michael lunged, but a sharp pull on his arm stopped him cold. The mother's grip tightened. Don't go! He knows something! Something about our... But then, the ground shook again. A loud thud echoed from above, and a second chandelier fell, cascading shards like a rain of ice. People screamed. Chaos erupted anew. And in that moment, clarity cut through. Not just shadows. This was reality. The stakes were much higher, and the tension was a beast waiting to charge. Then, in an almost dreamlike state, Marcus pointed at the sun. It's too late! He doesn't belong here. He's not who you think he is. Those words crystallized a sudden truth in Michael's mind. Every connection, every battle fought, every ounce of courage poured. Was something deeper hidden beneath their success? Shut up! the mother shouted, but her eyes flickered, a crack of doubt shadowing her fierce exterior. "Why?" Marcus pressed, voice dripping with glee. "Because he's not just a self-made millionaire. He's connected to the very chaos that ruined lives, and he'll never escape it. His father? No, the real father, was never who you thought." Michael staggered back. The ground shifted beneath him. The world spun, senses reeling. Who was he really helping? The walls they had built, the trust, the loyalty was crashing down. And in that moment, a twist sharper than a falling glass struck. The boy's expression changed. From confusion surfaced clarity. And with that clarity came something darker. An understanding, a revelation. No. The air held its breath as everything froze, eyes wide. "You're right, I am, but I can change." Heavy silence. The crowd held its breath, fear pooling, mixed with shock. Michael felt the weight of a lifetime crashing down. Everything he had thought was a lie. Everything. The mother's strength faltered, her truth trembling like the glass around them. As the night spiraled, questions surged. What lay behind their stories? And in the thickening dark, Michael wondered, had he stepped into a trap? Or was he about to uncover the truth that would finally set them all free? With the tension at a breaking point, Michael stared into eyes that held secrets darker than he ever imagined. Who was the boy really? And could they ever escape their pasts? Michael's heart thundered in his chest as he stood frozen, caught in the pull between ambition and something deeper, something like family. The neon lights flickered off his suit, blinding him momentarily as he stepped closer, unable to take his eyes off the mother and son. He knew this secret could be a lifeline or a noose, a way to unleash chaos, or perhaps to offer redemption. Suddenly, the room went deathly silent. A glass shattered in the distance, followed by a collective gasp. Michael turned, instinctively reaching for his phone, thoughts racing. A commotion erupted at the entrance, drawing everyone's attention as a figure stumbled into the party. A man, disheveled, face pale and twisted with fear. "Help! Please! You have to help!" he cried, voice quaking. The crowd parted as he rushed toward the woman with the strength that seemed to radiate from her. Desperation weaving through his words. "It's about your son! He's in danger!" The mother's composure faltered. Her eyes widened, instinctively searching for her son, who now stood frozen beside her. "What do you mean? What danger?" Her voice, calm a moment ago, shook with urgency. "The past, it's not what you think." The man blurted out. "You need to know the truth about who you are, who he is." The weight of those words landed like a punch. The air felt thick, like it could suffocate anyone who dared to breathe. Michael stepped back, his mind racing, heart pounding harder. He could see the shadows looming behind the man, familiar faces from the boardrooms, old rivals. They lingered like predators, waiting for the first sign of weakness. "What are you saying?" The mother's voice dropped to a whisper, tension flickering through her as she leaned closer, clinging to hope. "Tell me, your son, he's connected to people who will stop at nothing to keep the truth hidden. He's part of something bigger, something dangerous." The man staggered closer, sweat glistening on his brow. It all started years ago. At that moment, Michael's phone buzzed fiercely in his pocket. He hesitated, eyes darting to the screen. A message flashed. The secret has been exposed. Protect yourself. The urgency of the room intensified as gasps erupted when the truth began unfurling. The man, dizzy with revelation, managed to choke out, "Your son wasn't just born into a legacy. He's a pawn in a game of power, one that's been played for decades. The family you trust isn't your family." The mother gasped as though struck. Her son looked bewildered, fiery ambition fading into confusion. The room spun with whispers, accusing eyes locked onto them like vultures preparing to swoop. "No," the mother shook her head in denial, tears brimming. "That's not true. He's mine." Around them, the crowd buzzed like angry bees. "This is outrageous," someone shouted. "How can you believe this man?" But Michael felt the earth shift beneath him. Every business deal, every conversation echoed louder now. Could everything he knew be a lie? He turned back to the duo. Their world, once solid, was unraveling right in front of him. Michael felt that tremor of fear again, tight in his chest. Only this time, it clawed at his insides. What if this secret held the power to destroy not just them, but everything he had built? As the crowd erupted into chaos, he knew one thing. There was no going back. He needed to make a choice. But what would it bring? Could he save them, and in turn save himself? The night felt darker now, teetering on the edge of an abyss. In the flickering lights of New York City, everything was about to change. And Michael, heart racing, stood at the brink of the unknown. The night stretched on, heavy with secrets waiting to explode, and Michael, caught between fear and hope, stood frozen at the crossroads. Then, without warning, the room crackled with tension. A shout pierced the music, a voice strangled in disbelief. "No! Not him!" Michael turned sharply. The mother's eyes widened, fear flooding her expression. Her son glanced back at her, confusion etched on his face. "What's happening?" he asked. But she couldn't respond. Her breath caught in her throat, a storm of emotions swirling. In that moment, chaos erupted. A figure burst through the door, wild-eyed and panting, shattering the polished veneer of the evening. It was a man Michael recognized. Marcus, the family's former business partner, someone thought long gone after an ugly split. His presence felt like a ghost returning to haunt them. "Marcus?" Michael breathed, disbelief mingling with dread. Light from the chandelier caught the sweat on Marcus's brow, making him shine like a beacon of bad news. "What are you doing here? What you don't know?" Marcus gasped, almost collapsing against the wall. "They're coming for her! For both of them!" His voice trembled, each word carrying the weight of urgency. The room swirled, whispers rising. Faces turned, people leaning in, fueled by the unexpected drama. Michael's heart raced. The air felt charged, electric with fear and intrigue. The mother grabbed her son's arm, her grip tight. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her strength faltering. "Who's coming?" "Revenge. Secrets." Marcus stumbled through his words. "They found out about the deal you made years ago. They want payback." Gasps echoed around the room. Michael's mind scrambled. What deal? What hidden past? Shadows flickered in his thoughts, hinting at a history he was only now beginning to understand. "Shut up!" barked a voice from the crowd. It was Michael's rival, a man who'd thrived on blood and betrayal. "This is not the place for your ramblings, Marcus." But Marcus laughed, a chilling sound. "But it is the place. Everyone deserves to know who stands in their way." His eyes darted around, locking onto the mother. "You don't know the truth. She's not who you think she is. She was involved in something darker, something that could ruin you all." The air thickened, an icy grip wrapping around Michael's chest. The crowd held its breath, tension spiraling into disbelief. Questions screamed in Michael's mind. What did Marcus mean? Was the mother, the strong woman who stood like granite, hiding a past that could shatter his son's world? "It's too late for secrets," Marcus continued, his voice rising to a fever pitch. "You, the mother, made a pact with forces you can't control. Your choices are coming home to roost." The mother's facade cracked. A flicker of fear darted across her face, then anger. "How dare you?" she spat, her voice sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. But Michael felt the weight of what was happening. He was suspended in a web of uncertainty. Was he tied to these secrets? Could he stand by this family when history loomed so threateningly? The lights flashed, the music blurred, and everything felt surreal, like they were caught in a bad dream. People murmured, dread attaching itself to their expressions, shifting ever so slightly. Then, silence. Just the thundering beat of Michael's heart. Deep inside, he felt the balance tilt, a monumental decision forcing itself upon him. He knew one truth. Everything in this world, including his future, was about to spiral out of control. In that moment, he made a choice. A choice that could reshape everything. He stepped forward, hands shaking, determination settling in. "Then let's uncover the truth," he said, his voice steady. "Together." But just as he reached out, a loud crash shattered the air, and the very ground beneath them seemed to shake. A figure appeared, shadowy and terrifying, standing at the entrance, holding a symbol of threat, a gun. The atmosphere shifted. Fear morphed into sheer panic. As Michael stared at the figure, he realized the stakes had just risen higher than he ever imagined. What came next would either unite them or tear them all apart. Everything changed in an instant. The night stretched on, heavy with secrets waiting to explode. And Michael, caught between fear and hope, stood frozen at the crossroads. The music pulsed around him, yet he felt trapped in time, as though the room were shrinking, swallowing him whole. His heart raced, his thoughts spiraled. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the space. Glass shattered, a scream pierced the air. Gasps erupted. The crowd turned, eyes wide with shock. A commotion erupted near the entrance. Michael's body tensed as he whipped his head toward the source of the chaos. There she was, the mother, the strong, calm figure he'd been observing. But now, her face was drained of color. She clutched her chest, a look of horror etched into her features. "No!" she gasped, her voice cracking like fragile glass. Her son stood beside her, panic breaking through his confident facade, a mask slipping away. Michael's stomach twisted as he pushed through the throng surrounding them. He reached her just as the crowd parted, revealing an ominous scene. A man lay sprawled on the ground, blood pooling around him, streaming from a gash on his head. The smell of iron filled the air. Heart pounding, Michael recognized the man. It was Marcus Reed, Michael's rival, a brutal player in the game they all played. Michael's mind raced, pieces clicking together, paranoia gripping him. What did this mean? This wasn't just any accident. This was a powerful message. Whispers of betrayal fanned out, a wildfire of speculation, igniting around them. But then, amidst the shouts and rising panic, the mother's eyes locked onto Michael's, desperate yet searching. "Help him!" she cried, her voice splintering through the chaos. It felt like a plea, but weighed heavy with something darker. Was she connected to this? Thoughts swirled. Unseen ties pulled at him, threads of fate intertwining. As he bent down to check on Marcus, something inside him froze. He could see the glint of a familiar object, a silver locket, wedged in Marcus's hand, half buried in the crimson pool. His breath hitched. This wasn't just a mere fight over territory. It was personal. A mother approached, the steel in her stance wavering. "That locket!" she whispered, trembling. "Where did you find it?" It was a threadbare question, thin as paper, but her eyes screamed urgency. "Why?" Before Michael could answer, the room erupted in chaos. Security personnel pushed through, attempting to restore order. Murmurs erupted among the guests like wildfire. Who did this? Was it a setup? "Michael, you know something, don't you?" Suddenly, sirens blared, drawing closer, wresting the breath from his lungs. Every instinct screamed to run, to protect what he'd built. But then he caught the mother's gaze again, full of ghosts. He could see it now. Loss, betrayal, terror. "Michael, please," she pleaded, voice trembling, nearly breaking. "You need to choose." Choose. He could either align with her, risk everything to uncover the truth behind Reed's death and its connection to her, or distance himself, safeguard his empire from the looming shadows. But as the sirens wailed, echoing like the frail heartbeat of truth slipping away, Michael realized he had already made his choice. Caught in the whirlwind of what lay ahead, he stood at the precipice, ready to dive into the depths of darkness, or shatter the light that remained. What had he stepped into, and how deeply entangled could this battle become? Michael stood at the edge of a precipice, everything spiraling. The sirens wailed like angry ghosts, but his heart felt heavy, a storm of loyalty and fear brewing inside him. The mother's eyes burned into him, a plea wrapped in desperation. He won. But in that moment, chaos surged. Distant figures moved through the confusion, security guards rushing in, guests whispering accusations, and then, from somewhere beyond the crowd, a loud crash echoed. A second figure burst through the entry, breath ragged, panic etched on his face. It was Caleb, the mother's estranged brother, a man shunned for his criminal past. "You don't understand," he shouted, clenching his hands like he was grasping at straws. Before anyone could respond, he collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. It's all connected." The room tilted. Michael's heart raced faster. What do you mean? He tried to keep his voice steady, but doubt lingered thick in the air. Your son, he's not just a son. He's a key to everything, a secret we buried. Caleb rasped, eyes wide and wild. Beneath the chaos, the mother trembled. What are you saying? She demanded, voice breaking. But the dread in her eyes told Michael this was no mere family feud. This secret pulsed with danger, wrapping around their hearts like a vice. Stop! Michael's voice rang out, but the fragments of whispered truths shattered the silence like glass. Caleb, what have you done? The world seemed to slow as Caleb pointed a trembling finger at Marcus's lifeless body. It isn't over! He has a connection to your family, and they won't let this go. Your past, it's coming to collect. Gasps echoed in the room. Michael felt the air thicken, disbelief creating a chasm. What are you talking about? The mother narrowed her gaze. Lips pressed together as if holding back the flood of emotions. Don't listen to him, she shouted, but Caleb shook his head, a sad smile creeping across his face. It's true, you've hidden it all too well. Your son, he deserves to know. The room tilted dangerously, again, as confusion wrapped around Michael like a noose. Every beat of silence felt like a countdown. I'll do anything to keep him safe. But the mother stepped in front, eyes fierce, yet there was a spark of uncertainty buried deep. You have to trust me. It's not his fault. It's not. And suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into shadows. Ha 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 ha! Michael's heart raced. When the lights returned, the atmosphere shifted. Gasps turned to screams. The crowd erupted as a distant figure stepped through, cloaked in darkness, eyes gleaming like shards of ice. Enough games! The figure shouted, voice resonating with authority. Your son's life is at stake. He's not just any boy. He's the final piece we've been waiting for. The mother recoiled as it struck. You know? It's all been calculated, the figure said coldly, stepping closer. And you know what happens to loose ends. Michael's breath hitched as he pieced together the chaos. Who was this person? The crowd's shock shifted to hysteria. Stay back, someone shouted. Michael pushed forward, ready to protect the mother and her son. But dread twisted in his gut. The stakes just exploded. In one drastic moment, with truth unveiled, the mother collapsed to her knees, the weight of a lifetime crashing down. No, it can't be true. But the figure smiled, cold and cruel. Oh, but it is. Your son is tied to a legacy that could crush you all. And just like that, everything Michael thought he knew unraveled before his eyes. A tapestry of chaos where betrayal and truth intertwined. What was the real story behind this family? Caught between fear and fury, Michael felt the ground beneath him become unstable. This wasn't just their struggle anymore. It was his as well. What would he do next? And could he keep them safe? Or was a truth far darker waiting to group them all in its cold embrace? In the flicker of the lights, uncertainty loomed. The weight of the future pressing down, ready to shatter everything into irreparable fragments. Michael felt the weight of every gaze in the room, all pinned on him, all filled with shock and confusion. It was a dizzying moment, the air thick with dread. The figure, cloaked in shadows, towered over them, the tension palpable. Then, just as the room seemed to hold its breath, a deafening crash shattered the silence. A spotlight flickered, illuminating the chaos as a door flew open. All eyes turned to the new figure emerging from the darkness. A woman, disheveled and frantic, spilling into the room. "Mom!" Her voice sliced through the tension like a knife. The crowd gasped as she rushed forward, panic etched across her features. There was no mistaking her connection. She was the boy's estranged sister, Mariah, the daughter no one had spoken of since her sudden disappearance years ago. Michael's chest tightened. What was she doing here? Her sudden appearance felt like a storm breaking. "You have to listen to me," Mariah cried, eyes darting across the crowd like a wild animal. "It's all a lie." The mother staggered back, her face a portrait of disbelief. "Mariah, but how? What he's saying, it's all smoke and mirrors," Mariah shouted, desperation rising in her voice. "They've manipulated us all, especially you." She pointed to the figure shrouded in shadows. "The rumors, the secrets, none of it is what you think." Michael felt the ground shift beneath him. Could she possibly be right? The atmosphere crackled with confusion. A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd. Disbelief etched on every face. Mariah stepped forward, heart pounding in her chest. "You think I wanted to leave? You think I chose this?" she implored, eyes locking onto her mother's. "I know things about our family. We've been used, all of us." The mother shook her head slowly, raw emotion spilling from her eyes. "Why should we believe you?" Her voice came out strained, tension snapping in the air like a taut wire. "Because," Mariah whispered, "I'm not just a sister. I'm also your son's twin." Every breath stopped. Gasps erupted, a cascade of shock that rolled over the room like a wave. Michael staggered back, the realization hitting him like a freight train. It all made sense. The differences in their features, the uncanny similarities in their personalities. "Wait," the boy murmured, voice trembling. "You're saying we're—" "Twin siblings," Mariah confirmed, trembling hands reaching out toward him. "They've hidden it from you your entire life." The tension spiraled higher, each word tearing at the fabric of their reality. The mother looked as if her core had just been ripped out. She could hardly step forward, her face pale, eyes betraying a flood of emotions. But before the truth could sink in, the figure in the shadows began to move, anger radiating from them. "It doesn't matter," they barked, their voice rising, revealing a menacing edge. "We need to silence her. We can't let this truth spread." Michael's instincts kicked in. Panic coursed through him, urging action. "No!" he shouted, stepping between the figure and Mariah. "You won't hurt her." The crowd erupted into frenzy, fear battling curiosity. Questions hung thick in the air. What lay hidden beneath this web of lies? And just like that, the room was a cacophony of chaos and confusion. Tears streamed down faces, heartbreak mingling with fear as they faced a truth they could barely comprehend. In that moment, Michael felt a new determination rise within him. They had to fight together. But as he looked around at the shifting alliances, a nagging fear crept in. Would they all make it out unscathed? There it was, a precipice of choice. What would happen when the full weight of this revelation pressed down like a storm? As silence swept over them, broken only by shouts and gasps, Michael recognized this was just the beginning of a battle for some gnawing truth buried deep within their lives. How far would they have to go to uncover the past, and what would they lose in the process? The air was thick with tension. The revelation hung heavy like a boulder, weighing down on everyone in the room. Michael's heart raced, uncertainty clawing at his insides. Mariah stood tall, her confession echoing around them. Twin siblings? The words hung in the air, messy and raw. The mother staggered backward, shock transforming her fierce demeanor into something fragile. She looked at Mariah like she was both a savior and a stranger. "How could you?" Tears filled the boy's eyes as he glanced between his mother and sister. "This can't be real, right? You're lying." Mariah shook her head fiercely, stepping closer. "I would never lie. They took me away. Our family was torn apart to hide the truth." Michael felt the weight of every gaze, shocked faces staring. The shadowy figure loomed large, anger cracking their facade. "Enough! You think the truth will set you free? It's a trap, a dangerous game." But the tension snapped. The room erupted in chaos. People shouted, desperate to understand the unfolding drama. Questions flew like arrows, each one sharper than the last. "Who are you truly?" Someone yelled, eyes darting to the figure in shadows. "What do you want?" The figure scoffed, stepping closer. "Control. You've all been puppets in a very wicked play." Their voice dripped with disdain. "But that ends tonight." Then pandemonium broke loose. The mother shouted for her son, claws of desperation in her voice. "Get away from him!" She pushed toward Mariah, but Michael reached out, grabbing her arm. "Wait! We need to stand together." His heart raced. Was he truly willing to dive into this unknown abyss? The crowd murmured, fueled by fear and curiosity, all searching for who to believe. With every moment, the stakes skyrocketed. The shadowy figure raised their hands, and silence fell. "You have no idea what power is at play here. The legacy isn't just about wealth, it's much darker. You've been living a lie." Michael felt the bile rise in his throat. Could it be true? Was everything he'd believed in at risk of shattering? The mother turned to him, her eyes pleading, the iron resolve she once held crumbling into despair. "We can fight this together!" Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the entrance. Security poured in, guns drawn, adrenaline coursing through the room. The figure's smirk disappeared. "Time's up!" they spat before turning to bolt. "Stop!" Michael yelled, instinct taking over. He lunged forward, adrenaline spiking. But chaos erupted. The crowd surged, panic hitting like a tidal wave. He pushed to the front, reaching for the mother and boy, confusion swirling around him. "We have to stick together." In the midst of it all, he caught Mariah's desperate gaze. "Do you trust us?" she asked, voice trembling yet steady. He nodded, heart pounding. "With all I have." Just then a shot rang out, and everything slowed. Time stretched like the fabric of reality, fraying at the seams. Michael flinched, instinctively pulling the mother and her son closer. When the smoke cleared, it was chaos. Security scrambled. The figure disappeared into the dark labyrinth outside, leaving shadows and questions lingering. Breathless, they stood huddled together. Michael felt the heat of both adrenaline and fear. His heart still raced as he scanned the room filled with confused faces. "We survived," he whispered, voice taut. But what next? The mother's gaze was full of determination. "We find the truth. Together." Michael squeezed her shoulder, feeling a flicker of hope amid the chaos. Perhaps this was the moment to tear down the shadows. As sirens blared outside, he looked at the trembling trio before him. The Wade lives, entangled by secrets. They had a fight ahead. A battle for truth and redemption. Suddenly, laughter cut through. The dark figure reappeared in the doorway, smirking widely, a knowing glint in their eyes, taunting the group. "You think this is over? You've only just begun." In that moment, resolve ignited fiercely in Michael's heart. He was ready to face whatever lay ahead. But would the others have the same strength? Their stories had just begun to unravel, and the chaos promised there were still shadows waiting to crawl out of dark corners. You have to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the upcoming exclusive stories that could change everything. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even a second longer to share. True fans know how essential it is to keep this community alive.